Looks like it is going, Michelle. Is that right? Looks like they're solid.
Yeah, you should be good.
Okay. All right, I'm showing 6 o'clock. So, okay, we'd like to call to order our Riverdale City Council meeting for Tuesday, April 16th, 2024. Please let the record show that all members of the City Council are present, as well as members of the city staff and members of the public. We've asked Councilor Arnold if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Arnold. We will now have our invocation by Councilor Hanson.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this opportunity to meet together as city leaders to handle the city's business today. We're grateful for Riverdale, for the blessing it is to live here and to have such a wonderful community. Please help us tonight that we can be guided by thy Spirit to make good decisions, that we can listen and we can have good conversations and be patient with each other, and that we can do what's best for Riverdale. Please bless all of our employees of Riverdale, that they'll be safe, that they'll be able to return home to their families, and please protect them and watch over them. We love thee, and we pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilor Hanson. We now have a time for public comment. This is a time to address the City Council regarding your concerns or ideas. No action will be taken during the public comment. If you do approach the microphone, please state your name and the city that you reside in, and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Riverdale Mayor and City Council members. My name is Chloe White. I am 12 years old and I live here in Riverdale on 1150 West. I am here tonight to tell you about my best friend, Paige Gould. Also here with me are my friends from the Riverdale 2nd and 4th Ward young women, and Paige's family, including her mother, Gypsy Nut. Last summer, on June 14th, 2023, 23, Paige died in a tragic accident when she fell off a hoverboard and hit her head. She was only 11 years old. Shortly after her passing, we had a celebration of life for Paige, when we shared memories to help us heal after the loss of our dear friend. Paige loved to play in Golden Spike Park. It was her favorite place. Recently, when we were brainstorming service project ideas for young women, I suggested we raise money to put a memorial bench for Paige in the park. We noticed there aren't a lot of benches to rest on in the park, and this would be a place where we could go and remember Paige. Everyone loved my service project idea, and Paige's family wanted to be involved too. Our youth leaders are working with Riverdale Public Works Director Sean Douglas to follow Riverdale's policy on memorials donations. We've reserved Golden Spike Park on Friday, June 7th, and we are planning Paige's Promise Path Fun Run to raise money for the Memorial Bench. This project is being planned on run by us, the youth of Riverdale. With us adult support tonight, we are here to tell you about our project because we love you all to come and join us by running and or walking for Paige on June 7th. We would also like to respectfully request that you consider waiving the $125 special event fee on working with our leaders on the $1 million liability insurance requirement because this is a fundraiser and not a traditional special event. On behalf of the youth planning this event, we commit to coming to Golden Spike Park the morning after the fun run on Saturday, June 8th, to clean up the park as a service project so Sean's Public Works employees don't have to do the dirty work. Thank you for your time and consideration, Mayor and Council. We hope you will grant our request and come run or walk for Paige on June 7th. Do you have any questions for me?
So Chloe, we don't usually make decisions or do a lot of communicating back and forth. You did a wonderful job, and we'll see what we can do with your request. I took down a lot of notes, and I think that's a great thing that you're working on. So I think at the very least you would have some support from the council and the mayor on this project. So okay,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, thank you. Okay, seeing no other public comment, we will move on to presentations and reports. For the mayor's report, just a reminder, we have the Utah League of Cities and Towns Conference. This starts tomorrow evening and goes through Friday. So hoping to see you down there. It's a great opportunity to get some training as far as land use and laws and stuff, and excited to go down there with you guys and hear some of the speakers and see ways that we can be better public officials. Also on Friday, unfortunately, we will be missing, those of us that are gone will be missing the Lions Club Spaghetti Dinner. It's a fundraiser. It'll be held at the school. The Lions Club is incredible in Riverdale. They, I know Jim Knight's probably watching us right now, and when I got elected, they kind of strong-armed me and said, hey, usually the mayor's a member of the Lions Club. And it's one of the most expensive clubs I've ever joined, to be honest. There's dues, and they always are having raffles and expect you. I mean, I'm not going to be here, but they made me buy a ticket to the dinner, and they're pretty good at asking for money. But the money goes for absolutely incredible things. Last year, they were able to help some of the kids with their lunch bills. They install benches. They do beautiful things all over the city. And they do so much service around Riverdale and around the community. It's just, they're exhausting to be with because I can't even be at their things. And they're just like, this Saturday we're going and we're going to start at 7 and we're building beds for kids and we're doing this. And then next Saturday, and it just goes on and on. So anyway, it's a great thing to support, is that Lions Club dinner. And if anyone needs a ticket, I do have one for a family. So if anyone wants to go, it's a great opportunity. That's all I have. So item number 2, the 5600 South project update. We're looking forward to hearing more about this.
Good evening, Mayor.
Michelle, I think I sent you the presentation.
Yeah, it's right here.
Wonderful. And my name, while she's setting that up, my name is Brandon McDonald. I am with the 5600 South Public Engagement Team, and Elmer Acevedo Garcia. He's also part of our public engagement team, and we're here to just give you a construction update and what's to come and answer any questions that you have.
Fudge this today.
There you go. Yeah, perfect.
Steve, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Well, thank you for having us. We can just jump right into it. So we are in phase 2. Is this the clicker or is this recording?
No, it's just recording.
Perfect. We are in phase 2 of our project. You've probably seen a lot of movement. We have a lot of crews working in different parts of our corridor out there between Riverdale and Royce City. We just hit a really big milestone. You've probably seen that new structure we're building out there, our collector distributor bridge. It's going to be a new access point for drivers coming into Riverdale City. We are looking to open that this summer, so we're really excited about it. We did set the bridge beams February, March timeframe, and our next slide is just a glimpse of all the work that took place, and I'd like to share that with you.
Maybe.
Just a little bit of a glimpse into our crews working nights, weekends. So we appreciate your patience through all of this. We know we have lots of traffic restrictions and closures, but we're doing it so we can build something beautiful for your community and accessible and make it more efficient to get into Riverdale. Here's just a couple of aerial photos. We do fly a fixed wing helicopter, and they monthly come by and they just take photos of our project, so you can get a nice snapshot of kind of what's going on and what's being built. Some of our next big activities are, feel free to go back, I'll touch on those. The CD Bridge deck pour. So we are going to be, on the 19th of this month, we're going to be pouring the deck. So on that left side picture, we're going to be pouring cement all through there, concrete. That'll be an overnight thing, so we'll be closing underneath on 5600 South. 1 lane each direction, just for one night. So it shouldn't be too impactful to the public. We do have a lot of work along 5600 South taking place, a lot of utility work. We have a lot of side street closures, lane shifts happening. We are starting to build some retaining walls on the Union Pacific Railroad Bridge. You've probably seen that if you've driven over the overpass heading west down 5600. Freeway Park Drive, there's a lot of utility work going on, a lot of relocations and permanent work that our crews are laying in there. We've been coordinating really closely with the businesses along Freeway Park Drive as well. We do have a section of Freeway Park Drive that's closed on southbound. It'll be closed till April 23rd. Our crews are putting in a utility. There's a utility and a water line going in right there, so we've had to close that off, so you can't access 5600 going westbound. And that'll open back up on April 23rd. Ritter Drive, we do have some really impactful work. This will close Ritter Drive for about 8 to 10 weeks, starting in about a month and a half, and we will be coordinating with you closely on some detour routes. We plan to detour around 1500 West, so if you need to get to Freeway Park Drive, we'll have some one-way flagging operations, but we'll be closed right at Ritter Drive and Freeway Park Drive. So do look for that, and we'll be sending you some graphics and some visuals to share with the public as well. As far as other upcoming work, other ways to that we've been in the community, we do have a really big safety assembly. Speaking of safety, I don't think I can follow what Chloe said over here, and I'm sorry to hear about your friend. That breaks my heart. So we are doing a safety assembly. We'll have media involved at Roy Elementary, and we are going to hit on safety. It's National Work Zone Safety Week, and we want to just reiterate to drivers, to pedestrians, to wear your helmets, be safe, be alert, put your phones down, put your eyes, just be alert at all times. So it's something that we're going to reiterate tomorrow, so you'll see some media stories coming out about that in the news. So next slide, please. Is there any questions from the council?
Brenda, I had one. Can you make sure that those businesses are aware on Freeway Park Drive of that 8 to 10 week closure and the one-way flagging operation? I spoke to a couple of them. They said they're surviving okay. They're looking forward to when it's over, but they are hanging in there. But that's going to be pretty tough on them for that 8 to 10 weeks. So.
Yep, I agree. Yep, we'll coordinate with them closely because it's definitely going to be impactful to their destination businesses. So, thank you.
Anything else? Okay.
There's some other ways to stay informed. If you want to stay in contact with us, we did leave some business cards. So if anyone has questions or needs support for a future event, grab one of our cards. I'm sure some of our team members can show up for you guys on June 7th. We'd be delighted to. You can reach us by calling us on our hotline right there. We do answer live as much as we can. If not, we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. You can send an email to 5600south@utah.gov or reach us on our website. There's a lot of great information on the website, and you can also scan that QR code with your phone for updates.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you very much. All right. We'll now move on to presentation number 3, the Bonneville Communities That Care. Ms. Povey.
Hi, I'm Leanne Povey. I'm the coordinator for the coalition, and thanks for letting us come and take a couple minutes of your time. Before the youth get up and tell you about what they've been up to, I just wanted to tell you briefly that we've been exceptionally busy. Our Path to Prevention race that's held in August every year was the largest it's ever been last year. We're going to be doing a lot of publicity starting from now on. We've got some flyers made up and yard signs, and we're going to be getting those out quickly so that we can get it better this year and bigger, and we thank you for your support on that. We are going to, on April 27th, we're having we have a semi-annual Take-Back Day. The Take-Back Day is when we have the communities bring in their unused medications so that we can dispose of them safely. We're going to be doing that at Riverdale, excuse me, at Macy's. Allergies, sorry. Macy's grocery store on the 27th from 10 to 2. So thank you. This is horrible. 10 to 2, and we'd love to have you come out. We have a lot of people coming. That's actually one of my favorite events. We have a lot of people come up and ask, and we are able to give them information about opioids and other drugs and what they can do to make their homes safer. Then on May 13th, we'd love to have all of you come out to it. We're having a big celebration over at Bonneville Hyatt starting at 6 o'clock. We'll have the youth from Birch Creek Elementary come, and they're going to be singing songs about being resilient, and we're going to have our youth work group. We're going to be doing some talking points, and then we're going to have swag bags for everybody that comes that gives them information about the different substances that are out there, how they can keep themselves, their kids away from underage drinking and opioid misuse, tobacco, vaping, things like that. We'll have information for them on that and how they can get hold of more resources. So we'd love to have you. It's really fun. The kids are amazing. The songs are hit you right in the heart, and it's a good night. So we'd love to have you come. Going back to the race, I brought some water bottles for each of you today. It has our race logo on it. I'd love to have you use them around town. People ask you what they are, what that good-looking water bottle is. Tell them about the race. We don't do the race to raise money. It's always been about getting messaging out to people that normally wouldn't get it. Every year we find out from the runners, the participants, that they learn new things about the medications. Last year we actually got some people from a physical therapy place come and give them massages and talk with them about using ice and things instead of going for drugs. So we do everything we can to get the word out there and to get people engaged and more knowledgeable about that you don't have to use an opioid to address the pain. So I'm going to pass these around, and we'll have the youth come up and introduce themselves and do the environmental scan information for you.
Hi, my name is Farrah Balthorpe. I'm the current chair of the Bonneville Community Care Youth Work Group, and I'm a senior at Bonneville.
I'm Sarah Nguyen. I'm a junior at Bonneville.
As Leanne said, we've been pretty busy. Just recently we did our environmental scan, where we go out into the community and we survey the off-premise stores just to make sure that they are abiding by all the laws and regulations around the selling of alcohol. Do we need to... Oh, sorry. You're good to switch it, thank you. So the stores that we surveyed were convenience and grocery. A convenience store is for your quick stops, and a grocery store is just for your general shopping. On average, all of these stores are open for about 16 hours. This is for every hour that the store is open, it just means that a kid is able to go in and purchase alcohol.
We surveyed 11 stores, and all of them sold alcohol. Their selection of alcohol included oversized servings, caffeinated drinks, and flavored alcoholic drinks. And that's important because those things appeal to the youth. And this is our data on the extra large servings.
When we went in and looked at these stores, we were unable to see a shoulder tap. A shoulder tap is when a youth speaks to an adult about going and purchasing alcohol for them and then paying them off, right, so that the youth still gets alcohol without having to purchase. Again, we were unable to see that, so we don't know whether or not this is happening, but we did see that all of the employees in the stores received easy training. Easy training is the training around the selling of alcohol and making sure that you're doing it according to the laws and regulations, as well as while every store did allow kids under the age of 21 in them, they did have a lot of signage about no selling to minors and checking IDs at the cash registers. This just shows like the ID checks at the cash registers did say that if you purchased alcohol, they would ID check you. A lot of the alcohol, whether online or in-store, did show that there was a lot of sales, such as like 2 for $5, or it's less than energy drinks, just again making the youth in our community excited to purchase alcohol.
Some of the observations that we made during our survey were that the alcohol drinks were cheaper than the energy drinks, and they were sold nearby the candy and kids' juice aisle and the soda.
Yeah, you can.
We looked at whether these stores advertised outside or inside, and most of them advertised inside. Compared to last year, there's a lot less stores that advertise outside or advertise alcohol outside, which is good because it's less appealing to people that are just walking by. This is just our inside data.
Again, the signage was really good about no selling to minors. A lot of them had that signage for us. Overall, this was a really positive feedback from our environmental scan. It showed that all of the employees had received the easy training, as well as that the signage around no selling to minors and ID checking was really good. The signage outside was really good because last year they had a lot of signs outside that weren't necessarily following the regulations, and all of the stores are now doing that. and it's really helpful. We would just ask that you write gratitude letters to these companies because it's really helpful to the youth, because when they're following those laws and regulations, the youth no longer have that much availability to it. We can get you the list of stores to do that. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you. That would be very helpful to have a list of those stores that you visited.
We'll get that to you.
Okay. Any questions for them or comments?
Good job.
Yeah, good job.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you for the water bottles, Leanne. Very nice. I don't know if you guys know about that, the Pathway to Prevention half marathon that we do here. It's gotten quite large. I don't know. How many participants did we have last year? There's a 5K.
Yeah, we almost had 200. So I know that doesn't sound large in the big scheme of things, but we didn't advertise up front because we wanted to learn how to do it. None of us had ever done it before, so.
It's grown every year. Then it's a real, they've got the big archway over here and real timing and stuff. People have the bibs. It's a real race. So, and it's something to be proud of. Like, people have started to kind of watch for it, and it's a little bit of a destination. So, oh, Mr. Brooks.
Mayor, maybe you were going to do this anyway, but as I understand, Leanne is leaving us. And for someone who spearheaded the CTC program for a number of years, this thing's grown into something that I don't think any of us ever expected. So maybe just on our behalf and Riverdale's, we just express our appreciation to her for her work and contributions she's made to this program. So thanks, Leanne.
Yes, there was no way I was letting her out of here without recognizing her. I mean, she is the CTC, and especially it's grown now beyond her, but it grew. She was the CTC, and she has herded us and pushed us, and I hope we can keep it going as good as she's been so passionate about it, and so we do appreciate her. And it's made a difference. We were talking about, we've gotten more back from the CTC recently than we put into it, and that's pretty neat. We get grants, we get all kinds of cool things, and it's been really a good experience for us lately.
Let me just say that too, and that's the whole purpose of the CTC, the coalition. Our purpose is to be a resource to the communities and to the schools. We've never been about trying to get things from the cities or the schools. It's been about trying to be a resource, whether it's information or the race. Our whole thing is to get our first focus is on the underage drinking and misuse of drugs, but the secondary focus is everybody, the misuse of drugs. It's, as you all know, opioids has been a big thing, and fentanyl, and now there's a new one coming out, xylazine, coming from the east, so there's always a new drug. But our thing is to try to reach the kids while they're small, to get them resilient and understand not to do those things because it's not healthy, but then so that we have healthier communities for everybody. So thank you so much. It's been truly an honor and a pleasure working here.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
enjoy some well-deserved rest.
Yeah,
So,
we'll do.
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to the city administration report. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. Department heads are in your packet. They're department head reports. I don't know if you have any questions further on any of those that are in there. Doesn't look like we have a bunch of them there, but do you have any questions on any of the reports that have been submitted? All right, not seeing any. I will move on to our April anniversaries. If you've gone through the packet on that, if you'll notice that Mr. Paul Flagg there has 41 years of service with Riverdale City, which is quite amazing. Most of that's been with the fire department, but he is now our fire inspector. Paul's getting up to speed on a lot of that stuff. Seems to be going well and getting a lot of his training in and stuff. So kudos to Paul. We hope to keep him around for a while still. Another one that is present there that I didn't think was going to be. I thought he was in a training this week, but Chief Warren is here tonight. Did he slip out? Oh, there he is. Okay. Casey Warren, our police chief, has achieved the milestone of 20 years with Riverdale City, and where this is one of our anniversary dates, I believe Michelle has the certificate for him. If the mayor would like to present that to him at this point.
Yes, actually I have it, so I'll meet him up here.
Okay.
Well, Chief,
Thank you so much.
your crowd's all gone now,
Yeah.
so not a lot of people here, but it is quite something to recognize 20 years. Chief Warren does such a great job. We had our chief, let's get a picture over here with maybe
Do you want me to? Let me just come down there. Then there won't be microphones in the way.
Yeah.
I can share it with Chris.
You want to do it this way?
Just because I think it's funny.
Yeah. That's what we're going for.
He's photobombing.
If she wants to get some good ones.
Zoom.
Steve, you're photobombing, so make sure your
Right,
face
yes.
is up and
Smile.
Okay, so what I was going to say is Chief Warren, he was the obvious choice when it came time to find, decide who our new chief was going to be. And that's saying something. It's pretty cool to just be like, oh yeah, there's comfort in getting a new police chief. Because that's a scary job for a mayor and a city administrator to have to make who to hire. But Chief Warren was the obvious choice. He's done a great job so far. One of the things I love about Chief Warren is his communication is better than any other department head. He keeps me in the loop with what he's doing. He's a shining example for being grateful for things. I mean, anything that we do, I don't know if you guys hear from him, but I hear from him pretty frequently. He appreciates what the city does for him and his job here, and that's nice to hear that feedback from him. His department just runs fantastic. His guys, I mean, I never have to worry about what they're up to, and that's very comforting as a mayor. So anyway, congratulations. We've got your 20-year certificate, and then there's a little gift in there for you as well. So, all right, Chief. Yeah, there you go. Want to say a few words?
I'll keep it brief, I promise. I don't know. Just to echo probably what I've said before. 20 years is a milestone for a law enforcement officer, and I couldn't be more grateful to have my career being here. The entire time I've been here, I felt the love from the residents. I felt the love from the leaders, from the council members, the mayor, and from the department heads that led the way before me. It's just, I've never questioned the loyalty and the love from the city, right, from every aspect, and I'm proud to wear this patch for this city because there's no greater city in the state of Utah, and I firmly believe that. So, yeah, I'm very grateful. I tease Stacy all the time. I was like, I just want to get to my 20. Not just, I want to get beyond my 20, but for retirement purposes, it's important to get to that number. Just so your family's taken care of if something happens to me. If I ski off a cliff or something stupid like I did, they're going to be taken care of. And so, it's a big milestone. But like I said, I couldn't be more proud and grateful to work for this city. And I'm looking forward. I reset my clock. I had a countdown. I've reset it for many years down the road because I'm looking forward to continuing and serving for years to come. So thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
I was just gonna make mention of that. Don't get any weird ideas there, Casey. I know 20 years is enough to retire, but we don't want you going anywhere. He's not only a coworker, but he's a friend and a brother, so it's been a pleasure working with him. In addition to Casey, Angie, who does a lot of our public utility work, kind of the go-between there. She's just phenomenal. She's now at 8 years. This just blows me away when I read some of these numbers. And then also Sergeant Vasquez is past his 6-year milestone. I actually had some personal dealings with him as of late. My sister has been involved in some encounters with law enforcement, not in a bad way, but it just so happens that Sergeant Vasquez has been the one who's responded to there, and she has seen his professional side, and he's just amazing the way he deals with people. And like most of our employees here at the city, they're just exceptional, and we do have a good staff. So we appreciate all of them and their accomplishments and their years, and we hope we get many more out of them. Staffing authorization is listed in there. I don't know if that's really changed much. The community development report, I kind of taken this over from Mike. Not sure why, to be honest with you, but this will be one that I'm going to hand off after tonight back to Brandon, who he'll be doing this. But we've been throwing so much stuff at him lately, I figured I'd do at least one more meeting and then he can handle this. He already does a community development report anyway, so it'll be quite easy for him just to include that. we'll have him start doing these in the second city council meeting each month. But just by way, all of you know that Ashley opened up last Friday, their formal opening. As far as I know, that went well. I was again in St. George, so I missed all that. We've been getting a lot of feedback on almost every project we've had out there. A lot of them stalled during the winter, but I think every one of them have contacted us as of late, and things are starting to move. So now that the weather's gotten warm, we should be seeing quite a bit of movement on pretty much every one of them. We had a big meeting with America First yesterday. That was a good long one. Got a lot of discussions and kind of setting parameters and things like that. And part of what Brandon will give us tonight is related to that, to help explain to the council some of the funding options that we have. I think probably, and Brandon, you can jump in here anytime, I think our next closest when we have the opening up is probably going to be Chuck E. Cheese. I know they've been moving on theirs fairly quick.
That's right.
That's the only one I could think off my head. Do you have anything else you wanted to add on to that?
No, I think you hit all the highlights.
Okay. And I might add, he has just been exceptional. We got a steal there, and we've been really happy with what he's been able to provide us, and just his contacting with the businesses in the community has just been top notch. So we're happy to have him on board, and another one we want to keep for a while. So I think that pretty much wraps up my report for tonight, Mayor, on that part of it.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Brooks. I did want to make one comment about Chuck E. Cheese. You know, when I heard they were coming and stuff, people would ask about, oh, what's new? Everybody wants to know what's new in Riverdale at work and stuff. And I'd say, well, we have a Chuck E. Cheese coming, a little bit just tongue in cheek. People are actually super, super excited about Chuck E. Cheese. So don't downplay it. Like, don't discount it at all. Like, the people at my work are so excited that there's something for kids coming. They just don't feel like there's enough things like that for kids. And so anyway, it's kind of a badge of honor that they've chosen Riverdale to come to. So I'm a little more excited about it now. I was excited, but now I'm like, wow, people will really want to use it. So it's going to be a great partner for us. Move on to consent items. Number F1, consideration to approve the meeting minutes from the March 19th council work session and the March 19th council meeting. Any changes or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, we would need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Let's move on to action items. Number G1, consideration of Ordinance 980, amending the Riverdale City Code Title 1, Chapter 7, Officers and Employees to clarify employment rights for certain employees. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. I saw that Ms. Como's there in the audience. I should have her present this one, but I know she volunteered me for it. But this is one that she actually picked up on. There was a lawsuit filed, as I mentioned in the previous meeting, by another city, and it resulted in an individual making claims to certain rights and stuff that they weren't entitled to, and that's how the lawsuit come about. This is just our effort just to clean up our statute, to bring it more in line with what the state statute is and how that reads. We've never run into this problem, but we could have, because we kind of always thought that it was mainly just department heads and some of the appointed officials, but it actually does go a little bit further than that. So it's probably good that we're doing it. Again, it's more of a housekeeping thing, but it does bring us in compliance, so I would recommend that you approve this.
Okay, any questions or comments for Mr. Brooks? Councilor Arnold.
Move to approve ordinance 980 as stated within the packet.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Ms. Maragoni, will you please poll the council?
Counselor Hanson,
Yes.
Counselor Arnold,
Yes.
Counselor Richter,
Yes.
Counselor Stevens,
Yes.
Counselor Haas.
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 2, consideration of Ordinance 981, amending Riverdale City Code Title 2, Chapter 6, Design Review Committee, to allow additional alternative members for the Design Review Committee. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. What we're trying to do on this one is just give us a couple of alternates that we could plug into our design review. The purpose of this is to make sure that we're not going to miss one of those meetings and put some of these developers behind in their project and some of their time frames. And what we're finding is where that quorum's a little bit small, if somebody's gone or they're sick or they're not able to make it, we're pushing it some days, and so we were hoping to add 2 more people as alternates that we could call in if we had to. The 2 individuals that we listed in the statute was the Public Works Assistant Director and our City Recorder. Both of those individuals are involved in these kind of things, so it's not like it's something new for them, and it would be a natural fit probably for them more so than anybody else. So again, this is one that we recommend that you approve. I help that Design Review Committee out a little bit on some of their matters.
Any questions for Mr. Brooks? Counselor Arnold?
Move to approve ordinance 981 as stated within the packet.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Ms. Maragoni, will you please poll the council?
Counselor Haas,
Yes.
Counselor Stevens,
Yes.
Counselor Arnold,
Yes.
Counselor Richter,
Yes.
Counselor Hanson.
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously as well. Thank you. That is a benefit to our business community as we try to meet together. We're trying to wedge their schedules in with ours, and sometimes it'd be tough to get the Planning Commission and me and Public Works. So thank you for passing that. Number 3, discussion and consideration of amending the employee health insurance benefits. Mr. Cardin.
Thank you, Mayor. As always, if you have any questions, please interrupt me as we go here. As you've heard and Steve's talked several times, like one feedback we get frequently is sometimes that our benefits aren't as competitive as some of the other local governments that we compete with for employees. So as we started looking at this, Stacy pulled some information from TechNet, and we were actually surprised at the information that she pulled. Originally, about in 2010 is when the city went to this split for 80-20. And the reason we went to that is because it was easier. Each year we run into the problem, like we're bringing this to you before the budget. We have to do that because we have to have open enrollment, and we have to meet those requirements prior to the start of our health insurance year and those things, because it runs with the fiscal year. And so that's why this is on the agenda for tonight, is because our open enrollment period starts on the 24th of April this year. So if we're going to make a change, we have to make it now. But in prior to 2010, each year we'd just bring that to the council, and then the council would decide what they were funding. So to make it kind of more automatic, like we've done with the utility rates and those kind of things, in 2010 it was decided to do an 80-20 split, and some of that was with regards to the sales tax reallocation and those kind of things. Unfortunately, as like we've pulled other things, you can see the chart included in there. This is a summary from TechNet. You can see that there's 23 other entities that are paying 100% of the funding. 18 are providing between 90 and 99% of the funding for health insurance and dental, and then in the 80 percentile. So you can see we're just in the lower third there. And so one of the feedbacks we've got, like with Steve and hiring Brandon, we had one applicant in particular that talked to Stacy, and he went through, asked her a bunch of questions on benefits, and one of the big things he had questions about was health insurance. So anyways, we just thought that it would be worth bringing it to you and see what your opinion was on and adjusting that from an 80-20 split to 90-10. Currently right now, employees, if they have single health coverage, and it depends on the plan, but they pay about $73.65 a month, or per pay period. For double coverage, it's $152.45. For a family plan, it's $206.21. Dental, it's for a single, it's $562. For double, it's $768. For a family, it's $1162. And so, as it's explained in the executive summary, we anticipate the financial impact to be about $82,000. That could change a little bit if somebody decided to pick up insurance or those kind of things, but based upon my budget and what I put together, that's about what the impact would be. So Stacy and I are here to answer any questions you may have. Some of those other cities that make up the 61% or other entities, they're such as like Ogden City, Layton, Weber County, so some of our South Ogden, some of our bigger neighbors. On some of that information, we can't provide you the details because it is under that TechNet. It's proprietary information that they have. But I'm happy to answer any questions, or Stacy can too.
Counselor Hanson.
Stacey, do you feel like that would address the benefits, or are there other benefits that we provide, like holidays, or how we handle like comp time, or anything like that that is also a concern?
So I thought about that actually when I was thinking
about this. Oh, I'm sorry. I did think about that when I was thinking of what we could do to be more competitive with our government neighbors. And I actually looked at a 401k match as well. Completely my opinion, but I didn't feel like it would be as impactful as this would be. And that seems to be the question that we get from new hires a lot. How much is your health insurance? One of the problems with that is a lot of entities offer high deductible health plans now. We do too, but we also offer traditional plans. I think there's a lot of confusion around what the difference is between a high deductible health plan and a traditional plan. So sometimes people will ask that question and they're on a high deductible health plan, and we'll tell them, well, this is how much our plan is, but we're telling them how much our traditional plan is, because that is what the majority of our employees take, is the traditional plan. And there is some confusion there. And you try to explain that, but a lot of times they still don't get it, they don't understand. But I do feel like this would be the most impactful thing as far as the benefits go.
Okay, thanks.
I had a question for you. Oh, go ahead and stay there. Do we offer any incentives to go on to the high deductible plan? Like some employers will offer to fund a certain amount of like their HSA account.
We used to. We don't any longer, no. I'm trying to remember the year we went away from that. It's been several years ago. It was just one of the things we gave up when we was approving our benefit package at the time. So no, we do not do that right now. The premium is cheaper, obviously, for the high deductible health plan. And we have added some things to it to make it more attractive as far as prescription coverage before the deductible is met and things like that. So we have added some things to it to try to make it more attractive. And I have 3 employees on it. But
out how many do you have on the insurance?
So we have 61 full-time employees when we're fully staffed. And we have 53 that take our insurance. I think I'm remembering that correctly. And 3 of them are on the high deductible health plan. So the rest are all on the traditional plans.
I was telling Mr. Brooks where I currently work, to discourage people from signing up for our health insurance, they charge a penalty to
For
like
spouse
spouses that are eligible through their employer. I'm not saying we should do that, but we got to be honest. Health insurance is a huge expense for all employers, city, private, whatever. And so everybody's just trying to figure out how to manage it because it goes up. Everybody every year wonders what their increase is going to be, 3%, 6%, 11%, So anyway, it's tough.
And we do have the insurance savings. We started offering that about 2010, around that time, maybe it was 2011, to encourage people, if your spouse has coverage and you can get coverage there, we'll pay you $150 per person, up to 3 people to take that other coverage.
Oh, interesting.
So, and we have several employees that take advantage of that.
And we have a wellness plan, right, that helps
We do.
with our discount, our insurance, hopefully.
Well,
Do we meet our
yes, we have a
metrics?
wellness plan with PEHP. PEHP actually runs the wellness plan.
Yeah.
And yes,
Does it get us a discount on our insurance? Do we meet our metrics? And
the wellness program, no. Our utilization is what usually gets us the discounts.
or lack of utilization? Are you talking about utilization of health services or?
So how we use it. So the tools that we use.
Oh,
Yeah, so the tools that we use within our health plan to keep our costs down.
Yeah.
We have several cost tools within the health plan
Okay.
that help keep costs down. So that helps. And our renewal is 1.5% this year,
wow.
which is amazing.
That's amazing.
And that is all based on our utilization. Well, not completely. That's not 100% based on our utilization, but a big portion of it is.
Okay, thank you. And Counselor Hawes?
I noticed that
the numbers differ by coverage type on this graph. So basically that's saying that there are some that pay 100% of the single employee, but then maybe 90% on the double and others. Is that how that works?
That is correct.
Did you look into that?
We didn't dive into that a whole lot because it's always been the philosophy here at Riverdale that we just kind of do the same thing across the board. So we didn't do a lot of analysis in that regard.
I know that at some places that I've worked, they do, they pay 100% of the single employee cost, and then they'll do that amount, and then 80 or 50 or whatever of the other, that adds on to it when you go to the double coverage and the family coverage. So I just wondered if you'd considered looking at that. I don't know. The other thing that I wonder is what percentage are single employees versus double and family.
And I don't have those exact numbers with me. I didn't bring that information. I'm sorry. I should have thought to bring that. The majority are family coverage, though.
Are they?
Yeah, thinking off the top of my head, I want to say we have 2 single coverage employees. We have a handful of double coverage, and the rest are all family.
And some of our insurance savings kind of addresses some of that, because if they, like, say their spouse has insurance, but they get penalized for picking it up at their employer, they can get the insurance savings. If they only take like minimum coverage, they could get it for their spouse. Or if they have other family members that would qualify, but they're not insuring, then they could get it for that person.
The other question was about the FSA, the HSA payment that you said you quit. Did that cause people to quit using the high deductible plan and go back to the traditional?
No.
Oh, okay. Any other questions? Counselor Arnold.
Yeah, I like this. That's for Steve, and I don't know if you want to sit down or not. But so we talk about the shelf in 2030, constantly talking about that. We've implemented franchise fees. We raised property tax. Then we turn around and give an 8% increase last year in wages. Now we're talking about $500,000 between now and the shelf. So my question is, at what point are we going to start sharpening the pencil? Where have we seen any cost savings anywhere to supplement this or to help for the shelf that we're going at, that we talked about? This is the council that should be preparing for that. We're going to this big loss of revenue, but yet we've increased everything everywhere, and there's been no cost savings at all. And now we have this to say, okay, employee retention, which your plans are better than mine with the federal government. I'm thinking that Councilor Richter is, because my wife works at Weber State too, so I'm thinking yours are better than his, so I'm just guessing with that. At what point do we get busy on the financial crisis that we tout and prepare for, and we're going to talk to our legislators about, and we're talking about, hey, we need to show what Riverdale Road does to us with crime and with needs and all, and we don't see any of that, but yet we continually get this, and this is a bad one. I've had people call, employees call me at my house, late at night over this stuff. And it's a bad one to just go, hey, you know what, we were thinking about this, and we got a budget coming up, so let's just throw this on there without talking to the mayor. I asked the mayor prior to the meeting, did you know anything about this before it went on the agenda? And I think something like this definitely needs to be some sort of committee with you, for sure, before it hits the agenda to see what we're doing. But it's like we're we're talking about we need to sharpen the pencil and get busy with some stuff, but we're not. So how can we justify, $500,000 expense when we're not saving any money anywhere that I can see?
And just to be clear, I knew it was going on the agenda. Like I did.
Well, I
talk
mean, to
Mr.
go on the
Brooks.
agenda,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
why, where, yes.
for retention. Yeah.
AI will probably say that was a spirited discussion.
Are you addressing that, Steve, or do you want me to talk about it?
Well, I mean, go ahead, Cody, and then I'll fill in some gaps that I think of.
And some of this, like, it has been something that came up pretty quick. It's something that when we were looking at replacing Mike, came up a bunch. And so Steve started asking Stacy some questions like, hey, what do you think we could do? Like, we're not having, even I think Casey's talked about it a bunch. We don't have the applicant pool that we've had in the past. Like, things have changed a lot. And overall, if you look at Riverdale City, we are a service corporation. We are employees. Like, we can't do anything without employees. And so that's where a lot of this has come from. And I would disagree that we haven't done anything. There's a lot of employee positions that even since I've worked here, we haven't replaced, such as Lynette. And like some of that, like I know you have good and bad there, but
No, I understand that position, but also Lynette's duties were given. We didn't reduce the amount of Lynette's salary. We gave people increases and they accepted additional duties. So you eliminate a FTE, but you don't eliminate the money.
we save money on those. We don't ever pay out the same amount of money that, like when that goes away, like we saved a bunch of money on Lynette. And that wasn't given back out. So we have saved money.
And I'd like to see year over year what the actual money going out in salaries and saying, hey, there's Lynette retired. You won't be able to show that.
Well, if you increased a couple of people's salary, you're not paying double benefits anymore for that position. So a huge bulk of what people are compensated is the benefits. So
Right, but then
we
we
have
went up-
that savings somewhere.
But then you go up 8% last year.
Right.
8%. You
Right. I'm
didn't
just
get
saying that there is some savings by eliminating positions
Very, very
from the
small.
benefits.
For sure. And yeah, and I get what you're saying too. And like our salaries are always going to be our biggest expenditure because we are a service corporation. It's our employees, how we get stuff done. If you want somebody to plow your roads, like that's where it's coming from. So that's where this came from. And that's why, and yeah, we would have talked to you about it more. Unfortunately, when we got looking at it with the open enrollment, it's like, okay, if we're going to do something this year, we either have to do it like right now or we have to wait a year. Or it doesn't really matter. And so that's why that's on the agenda. And we're just here to talk about it. Like, you can tell us, no, that's fine. Like, it's just something that we identified as a need. And when we got looking at it, it really honestly surprised us where we were at and how many more of the competing entities were paying more and how many questions we had got on that. So.
And one of the things when Mr. Brooks asked if they could put this on the agenda, I said, well, get the information. I want to know what the other cities are doing. Because just get the information and let's let the council look at it. If we're really behind, well, then they can look at that and make that decision. Now, Councilor Arnold has a point, and in my mind, as we approach 2030, this would be a place that you could cut. But maybe we don't ever give it in the first place. That's a decision you guys are going to have to think about. I will say they were discussing benefits at the sewer board last night, and they do a 90-10. I was surprised, but they do a 90-10, and they actually have some more benefits after you've been there 10 years that makes it even better. And so I just wanted to see are we out of line? Where are we at? Is when Mr. Brooks proposed asking this. So. And it does appear that we're a little bit, but I'm not opposed to maybe looking at something else. Councilor Hawes caught that. Some cities do 100% for the employee, and then it looks like it shifts a little bit as it goes to family. But I think Councilor Hawes had his hand up first. Okay.
Just help me with the history on this. So you said 2010 is kind of when we went to the 80-20. Did you see a shift from other entities then? Were we in line at that point, and then you're seeing other municipalities increase?
So I would say, and this is prior to my time working with the city, I would say a lot of those things from looking back at the city. So in 2005 is when the sales tax was reallocated. And a lot of those things, that's when Riverdale used to offer like a 401k match and some of those things. And that's when that was changed, is all kind of as a result of that. And some of those things like the 401k, it just went away. And we immediately, when this was originally proposed in 2010 from talking to Stacy, and she can add more information, it immediately went from, I can't remember if we were 100% before that or if it was negotiated prior to this. So it was 100% and it went automatically to 80-20. Like there was no negotiation there. And so from looking at it, it appears that maybe we went a little too far, or we were anticipating that other entities would cut those too. And for the, based upon what we're seeing, they maybe have, but not to the extent that we have.
I did have one other question before. The other question I have about this this table is, are the other entities that we're showing here, do we know what kind of benefit plan they have? Is it are these based on traditional ones like all but three of ours?
These results are based on traditional plans. When I went into TechNet, I actually can choose what kind of benefits I'm looking at, and so I chose the traditional plans, yes.
Thanks. Try to keep it quick. Just to kind of address like the cutting back, sharpening the pencil. For as long as I've been here, especially since the 2030 deal came up, the main topic of every conversation every single year is what can we do to save money? And so it may seem, obviously the budget's going to go up just as housing and everything else is just skyrocketed. It's just the facts of life. It sucks. But I assure you, in everything within the police department and within the city organization, every year we're sharpening the pencil. I look at how many support staff I have, comparatively speaking, to a city like North Ogden or South Ogden. They have 3 or 4 women or men support staff running in there. I have 2. We used to have more. We've cut back. I look at the different types of training that's required and what we can do to do it on duty to save things. The people that wear multiple hats within the city, you know, and the thesis of that was, back when this all started, was let's do more with less and try to preserve the salary and benefits for the people we have, so we can keep good, competent people that love this city and recruit people that love this city, so we can do more with less. And as a result, I feel like over the years, we've been able to recruit and retain a lot of good people. In order to move forward, it's gotten tough. Yeah, there's been some big raises up there, but that's everyone. And it's hard. You guys have a difficult position. I understand that as council members, because you're tasked with raising taxes and difficult decisions, so I don't envy you guys. But I just want to, I feel like I have to speak up and say, you know, Cody and Steve and Mr. Hanson before, every year we sharpen the pencil. Every year, I promise you. I know that things get more expensive, but we cut back percentages. I mean, just this year I cut my overtime budget back, and I'm just crossing my fingers that I'm not going to go over. I got guys that I'm having to adjust their shifts so they don't go over. And it's sometimes a morale breaker when, you know, if you're supposed to work 6 to 4, now it's 8 to 6. Explain that to the wife. But the guys are willing to do it, and because they love being here. And so I know, I don't think we're ever going to see it go down. I just don't think anything in life monetarily is going to go down. It's going to go up, and we're trying to, you know, take the steep hill out of that, I guess you'd say. But anyways, I just feel like I want to let you know that I promise you, I'd put my hand up in the court of law. We are always looking to sharpen the pencil. But I think what they're trying to do is just stay competitive. And you know, there's a list of other benefits that other cities offer. I can print a few out and send them to you, from 401k matches to sign-on bonuses to you name it. We don't do any of that stuff here. We're not asking for that. We're just trying to stay as competitive as we can, but try to be as responsible as we can. And I know that none of these guys wanted to get up in here and do this today. None of us enjoy asking for more, because we are grateful for what we have. And it's hard for us to ask, because I know it puts you guys in a bad position. So I understand that too. It's hard. I'll shut up with that because I promised you in a few minutes, but we are really trying to do the best we can to be responsible. But also, we want to be, these guys are responsible for representing employees and helping to make sure we can recruit and retain them. And so it's a difficult task, but I'm not trying to respond to Mr. Onoff, because I love you, Alan. You're a good friend.
You're fine.
I just want to say, hey, I promise you, that is like big news in every department within the city. How can we sharpen the pencil? And it has been my entire career. So, thanks.
Thanks, Chief. Just one quick thing, and then I'll get to you, Council. So, Mr. Carden, you are kind of tasked with helping to lead this city through this budget shortfall that we are coming to. So, I'm going to ask you, it's cost $82,000 approximately. Of all the things we could do for retention, do you feel like that is the biggest bang for our buck? Like, is that a good expenditure versus the other things we could do? Because like Councilor Arnold said, we are going the wrong direction according to what we're trying to accomplish. Now, hopefully our revenues are going up and we can maybe separate. We want to see some separation on the expenses. We want to make that gap bigger, and that's going to save us too. I'm asking you, is this our best path forward?
So, and I defer to what Stacy said. Like, she's our expert on HR, right, and human resources, and she said that is the best bang for our buck. I think she said it here a few minutes ago. Like, of all the benefit things that we can do, this is the thing that she feels like impacts the most people. And even going back to Councillor Hawes's comment, like, most of our employees have families. And so I don't know, looking at doing something different for single versus double versus families, like, that's probably not going to help us with the employees that we have. But from what we've looked at and from discussions with Stacy, I would say yes. Like, that's probably, if we were going to throw $82,000 at employee retention and recruitment, that's probably it if we're trying to impact all the departments and get the biggest bang for the buck across the city as a whole.
Councilor Hanson.
I know that we're still kind of early in the process, but do we have an idea yet of if we're looking at a salary increase for the staff this year on the budget and what that might look like?
So right now we've just built in what the policy says. And I don't remember the percentage off the top of my head, but we're just following the policy. And so far it appears that everything's going to fit in the budget. We're meeting with where Steve has gone to this conference this week. Normally this is when we meet. And so we have appointments set up in the first part of next week with all the department heads to go through their individual line items and scrutinize those and see what their requests are and those kind of things. But at this point, yeah, it appears that everything fits and that
Does that
those are in there.
include cost of living and just like a small bump built into, I can't remember what the ordinance or policy says.
Why don't you're better at it than me.
So we don't do cost of living, we do market.
Okay.
And so cost of living is kind of built into that because we look at what everybody else around us has been doing. We look at the last 2 years of data pretty much and what all the other entities are doing, and that's what we base our increases off. So those people are doing COLAs, so COLAs are kind of built into it.
Okay. I was just kind of wondering what the trade-off would be between if we did this versus, what would the employees want more, depending on how much the increase we're looking at on salaries is versus.
So if it's salaries or health insurance, we're going with salaries because that impacts everyone. And the health insurance only impacts
like 50 to 53.
60 people. Okay. We have 105. So, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Arnold.
I will answer, Chief. I know all that. I know you guys are doing everything you possibly can. The part of, I feel, my problem, our problem, is we need to do everything we can as well. And that, every dime that we spend comes from somebody. And, I wasn't comfortable with the property tax. I wasn't comfortable with the franchise fees. We're trying to infuse the city so we can do some of these things. And some of these things were for the shelf. And, we kind of got a little, like with the senior center, it was kind of proposed to us as like this, another cliff shelf thing to us that we need to address the senior center. And, we got a little blowback, and all of a sudden it was like not that big a deal. And, I think, we need to start dealing with reality, because I don't have a problem with the benefit package. I'll let the council know that when I was on the council, it was 100%. We were paying that. We got an increase. And I was like, I don't get free health care, from my position. And I can only gauge what federal government, it's pretty broad with the number of employees. And it's like, I think it's great that we try to keep the employees happy, but at what cost? We have to keep the residents happy, because we put so much on 9,000 people, because Riverdale has this kind of a funky dynamic during the day. And then, we have to support that, but then it falls on this 9,000 residents for property tax and things like that. And I really, when I'm driving down the neighborhoods and things like that, I think about that when I think about how some of the department heads, how much the department heads make here. It's a lot. It's, you look at federal government wages for our locality, and people working for Riverdale City make more money than their comparable positions in the federal government. And again, that's my own experience. So I feel a lot of responsibility to the residents. I love the employees, I don't strap on a gun, when I go to work. I also look at some of the employees, like the fire department. I think our fire department is extremely underpaid. And if we have $82,000 laying around, why can't we give it to some of these employees that way to help with that? Because you guys, the department heads, you don't need this $200. Everybody needs it or wants it, but you don't need it. Some of these people that are making $20 an hour, they need it. And I could see that. I would love for that, but, I just feel like having it on the residents, it hurts me to say, yeah, we need to take care of these people by giving them things that, I live in the community I don't have. You've got TRICARE, don't you? So I'm not going to point at Bart, but anyway, that's just where I stand.
Councilor Richter.
I know I went back to 2010 trying to get a little bit of history. I'm wondering if we have any insight on the trends here, right? So if we took this snapshot a year ago, 3 years ago, are we seeing, are they staying steady, some of these other municipalities, or are we seeing them start to fall? I just say that only because I know in all the industries and that Alan was talking about as well, I don't see them coming up. That's a remarkable shift. They're all kind of coming down, hitting that 80-20. I just wonder what the trends have been, or if you see that.
So I don't know if Stacy's got a different input than me. From talking to other local governments, most of them, they stay the exact same. Like they don't, like our competitors, they're not changing. And even like South Ogden City, they did this weird thing a couple of years ago where they decided to go to like a 90-10, but then they felt bad doing that. So then they gave their employees like more money, like 10% to pay the premium. They can't, or not maybe the full 10%, but they gave them a partial back so that it like covers the premium. And the individual I was talking to from South Ogden, they're single. So I'm like, you actually came out with more money, right? And he's like, yeah, I think I ended up making more money. So overall, I would say most of our competitors, like the other local governments, it's just held steady.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, a motion would be in order. Counselor Hanson.
This is a really tough one. I know that right now we've got the money for it, and we want to be able to not only retain our employees, but to have a good field of applicants as they come in. I think the timing's just really hard to know exactly if this is the time to do it. That's what I'm kind of struggling with. And so I guess my motion, and I know that doesn't help you for this benefits, but my motion would be to, I almost want to table it and then bring it up during the budget session, is what I
Does
would.
that put it behind the curve?
It does for this year, but then it addresses it for next year, right?
That's correct. Like, if we don't do something tonight, then, which is fine, then it would be next year that it would.
But we could talk about it
Take
during
effect.
all the budget meetings.
Correct.
One thing, I mean, it's not going to put them behind.
But that's my motion first. Sorry.
Your motion is to table.
To table and,
I would
talk about it
second.
during budget.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Counselor Arnold, discussion?
I don't think it puts it behind the curve, and Stacy, you'd have to correct me if I'm wrong, but if we, I mean, you're talking budget, but you're also talking open enrollment. So what it does is if someone wants to change their insurance based on the amount, so if we go 90-10 and their spouse's employee or employer is 80-20, they'd say, oh, we want to go this way. They can change during open enrollment. But if we changed it in the budget session, anybody that had their insurance, their premium would change. It's just that they wouldn't be able to change their insurance coverage until the next open enrollment. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I actually thought about that when we first started discussing this. And my concern with that is I do have several employees that do take the insurance savings. And so they wouldn't have the opportunity to say, wow, now, you know, maybe I'll take the city's insurance because I can save more money that way. That was just my only concern. They wouldn't be able to do that. They wouldn't have that opportunity. I was afraid some of them would feel that was unfair to them.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion on that motion?
I like dealing with this on a comprehensive thing. We're looking at the entire budget. This is a budget impact, and it should be, I think we need to look at it in its entirety. I think that there's wisdom there.
Thank you. Ms. Maragoni, will you please poll the council?
Who was the second on that?
Counselor Arnold.
Thank you. Counselor Richter?
Yes.
Counselor Hawes?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
Counselor Hanson?
Yes.
Counselor Stevens?
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. The item is tabled. Number 4, discussion and presentation on public infrastructure districts. Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a little slide presentation as Michelle brings that up. Let me just say, if I may, I know we're constrained for time, so I'll be brief. But the conversation that we're having about the budget and health benefits and a comprehensive look is actually tied to this discussion about PIDs and other financing mechanisms. So it's good that we're having it back to back. I've been studying cities and how they work and how they become prosperous for almost 2 decades now, and it's universally applicable as to what ails most cities, and that is their inability to provide the services that the residents desire, because you can't tax yourself into success that way. And so really what we're talking about with the PIDs are a tool to use to finance things that the market for some reason won't be able to deliver to the community. And this is specifically applied to infrastructure, public infrastructure. But the general idea is that the market in most cases, in most cities, isn't able to perform in a way that creates the revenue necessary for the city to then return the desired services back to the community. And so there's always this constant discussion, like we've just had tonight, about how to apply the revenue that we do generate. But for smart cities like Riverdale, they talk about what do we do to increase revenues without taxation or burdensome taxation. And so that's the context of this discussion. It is a tool. It's being brought up in relationship to the America First project, but it's applicable to many other projects, and it's just one of many that might be in the toolbox. So you can advance to the next slide, please. And so really, I would submit to you just for not discussion, because I think it's a very deep and broad discussion, but just for your consideration and thought, that the recipe for a city's wealth and prosperity is really the combination and the right combination of value and density. And don't get afraid of the word density. I'm not talking about what you might traditionally think of density, but the right combination of value and density. And there's many, many examples of where just value alone doesn't work, where just density alone doesn't work, but we can see from precedent all across the country and even here in our own backyard where value and density together in the right way is the key to having the right tax rate that gives you the right amount of revenue to provide the right amount of services. So just consider that, because I hope to come back to that idea more and more as we discuss ways that we can advance our community. Can you see those colors? Because are the words in the colors? Because I can't. Sorry about that. Okay, so in 2019, Senate Bill 228 gave powers to cities and counties to essentially authorize the creation of districts for the financing of public infrastructure. This was codified in Utah Code 17D, and these are effective tools that allow the cities and counties to work hand in hand with private entities and developers and property owners to do things that otherwise aren't necessarily market feasible. The creation and financing of infrastructure that otherwise would be difficult or impossible to do without this type of a tool. You can advance to the next slide. Really, there's been the specific tool of tax increment finance that's been prevalent in the state of Utah. I think there's really good examples of how Utah has used tax increment finance over the decades. There's really bad examples of it, but for the most part, tax increment finance has been the go-to tool for Riverdale, for sure, and most communities across the state. The state does allow for assessment areas, special improvement districts, other types of things that allow for the creation of additional revenue to finance infrastructure. But this new law, I say new, it's 5 or 6 years old now almost, and it's growing in popularity. This new tool is really meant to complement what's already on the books, and I'll give you an example of how the two TIF through an RDA or a CRA in this case can complement a public infrastructure bond or something like that. Next slide, please. So again, 17B is the governing statute, and essentially it's an independent political subdivision of the city. So it's not a component part of the city. It's independent of the city itself. It has the ability to issue its own debt and assess its own mill levy on property, this improvement district. It's not connected to the taxpayer outside of the district at all. It's not on the books of the city, and the liability doesn't hit the city in terms of the payment of the bonds or default of the bonds themselves. It is a new tax revenue. So TIF is the reallocation of taxes that are already being paid, a redistribution of those taxes from the entities that participate to the agency and then distributed through participating agreements. But this actually creates a whole new revenue on top of that. Go ahead, please. So the creation powers of a PID. So again, the PID is its own entity, but the city, our role is the creating entity. So we authorize the creation of a PID through a policy document. That policy document would be crafted by staff and approved by council. And that would govern the ways and the reasons for which a PID might be created by an applicant. So in the case of America First, they would be able to apply to the city under a PID policy that would allow them to then create the district and then therefore assess themselves and then bond against that assessment. We won't go through all of those things, but just know that the city's role in this whole PID idea or public improvement district is that of a creating entity that authorizes the third party to create the district, and then we govern the rules and regulations around what happens as that PID operates. Go ahead, please. A PID has a board. That board is initially appointed by the creating entity. So we set up the board. We're a part of the board initially, and then that board transitions to essentially those who own the property. The creation of a PID district is subject to 100% of the voting members of the district and 100% of the property owners. So it has to be universally bought into because it's essentially a vote by those people to assess themselves a certain amount to pay a bond that's issued by themselves under the powers that we give them as the creating entity. So it's a really unique tool, but we are initially part of that board that governs the operation of that, and then it transitions to the actual owners themselves. Go ahead, please. So what are the potential uses of PIDs, and why is it a tool that the legislature, under the influence of the private sector, set to create in the first place? Well, again, it's meant to incentivize the creation of public infrastructure that may not have been possible or feasible otherwise. And so the usability of that is also governed by state statute, and so it can go to incentivize housing developments, commercial developments. It could be a regional backbone for the city. It could be a combination of all those together. In the case of America First, this is something that they're considering, but some of the improvements that are necessary for that West Bench area to make the America First campus feasible is a larger infrastructure improvement that has additional benefit for a larger area. And so that would be also considered under this PID idea and be the benefit of the community. And so, again, they're the kind of inducement of this idea, but this discussion is just to get you introduced to the idea in the event that America First or anyone else in that, for that matter, in the future decides to come forward and potentially want to use this tool. Go ahead, please. We won't go over any of the examples for the sake of time, so you can slide through this. So the bonds that might be issued by this special improvement district are generally limited tax bonds. There's some other options. A GO bond, a limited tax bond is a form of a GO bond, but it's limited to a preset levy, and that preset levy is set in a governing document that's created at the time that the PID is created. So as a creating entity, we authorize the applicant through policy to come forward and make application. We go through the steps that the policy prescribes, and then once that's all agreed upon, a governing document is approved by you all that sets the mill levy maximum. It sets the use of the money in terms of the infrastructure. There's all kinds of attorneys and financial folks part of that the applicant would pay for. And so there's eventually at the end of that months-long process, there's a bond issue, and that bond that's issued is used to pay for the infrastructure, which is then paid back by the assessment that is created by the district itself and authorized by the city. So there's some more information about limited tax bonds. Again, it's essentially governed by a restricted mill levy. And so there's a chart here that I've added. Next slide. Maybe go through one more. There we go. So for instance, let's say you have a $400,000 house. In this case, it's a residential subdivision, and you're moving into it, and your house is worth $400,000. The taxable valuation is at 55% of that, all through Utah. So your taxable valuation is only $220,000 in this case. Maybe the prevailing mill rate of Riverdale is this is a basically $10 per every thousand. So that's what a mill levy is. So it's 0.0125. That's the rate. Your taxes for that home would be $27.50 per year. So if you've moved, and that's in a general case, if you've moved into a subdivision that used the PID tool to finance the infrastructure that supports the subdivisions, the roads, the sidewalks, the water lines, the sewer lines, and they have bonded for that money through the PID tool, they now have an additional mill levy assessment on your home based on whatever that approved mill levy was in order to finance those improvements. So I've listed what that could be. The maximum is 15, so 0.0015 or 0015. And so in this case, you would go from, at the same home valued at 220 or assessed at 220, if you had lived in a subdivision that had a 15 mil on levy on top of your regular city mill levy, your taxes would be $6,050. So it is a consideration in terms of marketability, in terms of how that product is occupied or sold. In the case of an owner occupant like America First, they're assessing themselves. So there is no marketability component to that consideration of whether they do that or not. Go ahead, please. This is debt coverage ratio. We won't get into that. It's essentially 1.25. So that's the difference between the amount you bond for and the amount of revenue that you have to cover that bond. And here's an example, as I mentioned a minute ago, about how you might use a PID within an RDA district. So the RDA is essentially the tool that gives the agency the ability to collect the incremental tax of the improvements made in that area to itself, other than it's going to the other entities, and then using that tax increment to then incentivize improvements that would not otherwise be able to happen. And so you can take that tax increment revenue and pledge it for repayment source to the PID and essentially create a circular loop of valuation. And again, it doesn't hit the books of the city. It doesn't even hit the books of the property owners. It's a debt of the district, which is made up of the folks that vote themselves in, which is everyone in that area. So there are a ton of considerations that would need to be made and some other limitations, but just know that this idea is controlled and governed by the city. The idea to move forward as a creating entity to even allow for PIDs to happen in the city is a consideration of the council. Once that policy is made, if it's made and adopted, then the application for a PID district would come before the council after review by staff. Then there's a consideration there. And then that governing document is a negotiable document between the council and the applicant that allows for the mill levy cap and all the other governing rules that would apply. And so the cities are in complete control as to how this is implemented in their communities. And I think that's really unique. So we won't go through this because that's all part of that governing document. So anyway, the idea was that we would bring it up to you tonight in advance of any urgent, requests that might come forward later on as America First develops, as other major projects that have a serious infrastructure gap. TIF is a revenue source, but typically both cities and the private sector have difficulty monetizing that TIF stream of revenue. It's there, it's allocated, but in order to monetize it at a decent present value rate, then you have to either bond against it, you have to go to the bank and factor it. There's all kinds of tools that are available, but they're very difficult, much more difficult than flowing it through a PID. And so we anticipate this tool being very valuable for us to get us to the point where we can support some of these projects that bring that value and density component that I mentioned initially. Any questions?
I just have one. I don't know if it would come up later in the meeting or not, but in your meeting with America First yesterday, is that right? Mm-hmm. You had an extensive meeting with them. And this would probably be more for RDA, but they I heard that their amount of money they're looking for, that they might be increasing that substantially. Would this fall into that?
So we talked about a comprehensive list that would be beneficial for the project and the West Bench area. They gave that list to us for consideration. We have a meeting later on to cover the appropriateness of that request. So regardless of what that number ends up being, we're not sure of what that is yet. But despite that number, someone has to pay for those expenditures up front. So there's only a few options that can take place. The city can pay for it. Highly unlikely. When I say city, I mean city RDA. America First can pay for it and seek no reimbursement, or America First can pay for it and seek reimbursement through the RDA. But then adding the PID on top of that, that's just a financing mechanism. So instead of paying cash out of their pocket and then hoping to get a check once a year or twice a year for 17 years, they could use the PID mechanism to finance all of it. By assessing themselves and then paying that bond back through the same reimbursement of TIF.
Okay.
So that's an idea. We haven't really decided. There's a lot of discussion about the appropriateness of the request and what tools are available to us. The idea of the use of the PID is solely America First, but the allowance of the use of the PID is entirely the city.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And just to clarify how the RDA and TIF fit into this, they could still use the RDA's tax increment to pay the bond off as well, right?
That's right.
So, and then that might just mean that the amount that they would have to assess themselves wouldn't be as big.
Be lower, right?
The other thing, I'm not a real understanding of taxes, but when I saw that $6,000 on the house, are corporations restricted on how much tax they get to deduct?
The PID legislation is capped at 15 mils for any use of that. There are some cities across the state that have adopted a policy that limits a mill levy for commercial projects to 10 without special considerations, and that of a residential project of 4.
Are you saying at like a federal level,
Yeah.
like on their income tax return? As far as I know, they're not.
So
like on a
just
personal
because
residence,
if
yes.
If I was paying $6,000 per year on property taxes, I would
Would hit the $10,000 cap really quick.
$10,000 local taxes.
Property taxes are deductible,
limit.
but there is a limit.
But usually not on commercial.
Commercial, and so that's one of the reasons why commercial entities would be much more willing to do this, because while it's still going to cost them, it is going to help them a little bit because they get to write it off.
And it's
ball game. That's what I keep. It has to be, right? Because otherwise, why would they need it?
Yeah.
and it's off balance sheet too. And so like they're not like saddling themselves with a whole bunch of like liability, but they're getting the benefit of like they're getting their money up front. In this case, like with America First, instead of waiting over 17 years to get paid back, they'd get their money when we agree to the release of it, but they wouldn't have to show the debt.
Right.
There's a lot of bond risk associated with those purchasers of the bond because of the lack of recourse. The property is not associated with the security of the bond, and so those who can participate in the purchase of these bonds are limited to a certain number of folks, and the par amount's limited to I think 500,000. So there's a lot of restrictions because it doesn't affect the city, nor does it affect the district.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Will you be sending that slideshow to us?
Sure.
I think we did get it. Is that the one we got before our meeting a month ago?
Maybe if I can send it again.
Yeah, that's fine. Send it again. That was good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still a little hard to understand, but at least starting to understand it slightly. So very good.
Well, if I could,
Yeah,
Mayor,
Mr. Brooks.
am I still frozen on your screen? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
I can see you too.
We'll be meeting again early next week, as soon as I get back on this and discussing some of the other options. One of those would be, city doing bonding, which I know the history of Riverdale is we never have or never want to. And so I don't see that changing, but I do like the idea of the PID. And I think given the situation where you only have one landowner up there, and they're an institution who can financially do a lot of this, it's almost a logical reason for us up there. But one of the other options too, and we'll discuss this further with you, like we said, this is more of a RDA issue, but we're going to look at exploring the RDA that's currently up there and maybe expanding that a little bit too. So there's a lot of things on the table, but until we get some of the final data from America First, we can't move a whole lot more. But I just wanted you to take a look at this, just so you know this is one of them. I really like the idea that this is not on the burden of the taxpayers. This is on the shoulders of the landowner themselves, which is almost ideal for this particular situation because this is their project and they're the ones who are creating a lot of these issues. So I think we can make it work in the end. We still kind of supervise it and get the whole thing started, but it's a good tool that the state has come up with that might even work almost ideally for this particular situation. So we're kind of excited about seeing it, see how it plays out.
Okay. Very good. I agree. Like this is probably the textbook case for it, to be honest. One of the easiest with one property owner that's a financial institution.
As long as we have a good governing document,
Yes.
then maybe.
Okay, if no more questions or discussion on that, we'll move on to item number 5. This is discussion. It says possible action. We will not be really voting on this, but this is regarding the YCC service agreement proposal. The YCC has reached out to us and asked for us to partner with them financially for some services that they provide. The amount that they're asking for each year, and this is on a yearly basis, was right around $5,200. It's based on our population. They are asking each city in the county to contribute to their finances based on our population, and they do, from what I understand. They do help out with some of the things our police department deals with. Any discussion or questions about that?
Do you want me to re-ask a couple of those questions
Yes,
for the
please.
record?
Yeah.
Okay. Chief. And I just thought of another one.
Okay.
I'll ask that one first. If I can think of how to word it, I should have thought about it for a minute. On your domestic violence cases and those that would include needing to go through the assessment and the YCC and their services, do you feel like percentage-wise they take the place of having us employ a victim advocate? I know victim advocates are used for other
yeah.
cases too, but would that be the predominant use of a full-time victim advocate?
Yeah, I would say if you're weighing the benefit of a victim advocate versus a victim advocate through the YCC, it's probably more cost beneficial to utilize theirs.
Okay, I just wanted to be fair on that.
Yeah, and so I did look at the statute.
The district court doesn't the district court have a victim's advocate?
A lot of police departments have their own.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it is if it's a felony, or excuse me, a Class A or above, then it would fall under the second district court. If it's let's say it's a Class B misdemeanor assault here into our justice court, we don't have a victim advocate.
Right.
So.
And we're small.
And our court will be going away too.
So I just looked at like the requirements.
Whether it's required training that they're saying they're providing.
Yeah, and
versus
so
optional.
it is a required training for law enforcement officers, but it's just kind of part of the basic training that we would receive.
Are they the only place that can offer?
Oh,
Okay.
no, they're not the only place that can offer it. Matter of fact, in the statute, it doesn't list YCC. It just says a non-governmental community. shelter as far as a resource for a shelter. So it doesn't specifically say who. You know, they're good resources. The legislation will often legislate some of these things and not really think about who's responsible for providing those services.
When you were looking at that statute, did it say it was annual training or is it a one-time training?
It
for
didn't
new
say annual. I
officers?
think it's just one time.
Okay.
From what I could read, it just seemed like a one-time thing. So they added just recently some training on strangulation. That was a new component to it, but it's not an annual thing that I can see at this point.
Thanks.
No problem. Any other questions? Further?
Councilor Arnold.
I don't have a question. I'm really familiar with the YCC, and I think it's like I mean, not like, I shouldn't say that way, but they're a partner to you, somewhat similar to the criminal justice or
Children's Justice Center.
Yeah,
CJC.
I mean, so it's in that realm, and I mean, I would support this just from my knowledge of them, knowing that you reach out to them and, you know, they're an absolute resource. It's not like some of the people that are looking to fund their own programs. I mean, the community, and I would also put it as somewhat contingent on the community. You know, if Ogden City says no, or, you know, there's some other cities that say no, that we wouldn't want to participate. Say, here's our 5,000, but they're going to be 35,000 short.
Which is what we did with CJC, I think, wasn't it?
So that would be my position.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? We're just kind of looking for if we want to kind of move forward with this and put it on the next agenda maybe with a dollar amount and a you know, an actual resolution to give them.
Can Councilor Arnold expand on what he just said? What were you talking about? If Ogden didn't put in as well, or?
So it's kind of an area contract based on population. So they'll say Ogden City, and I'm just going off the number that's in there is 35,000, and then Riverdale would be 5,200 that you were talking about. And
yeah.
It might be like Roy would be 10,000 or something like that. So if other governing bodies say no, we're not doing it, that we would follow suit. I mean, it would kind of be like an area thing to help the YCC.
Okay. Would you want to see like a percentage of those guys funding it, or if not all of them do it, or just what do you have in mind?
Honestly, with Ogden City, I mean, they're the lion's share of what it is. So, I mean, if they're going to say,
The county, maybe it'd be interesting to see the participation, what they're anticipating.
Okay.
I kind of agree with Councilor Arnold. I mean, I do think it's an important resource, and of course I worked with a lot of victim advocates, but for a lot more than just domestic violence. And so I know it's hard to get people to participate in the YCC beyond your guys' on-scene assessments.
Yeah.
So that's the part that holds me back a little bit, because
It is tough
how
to
much are
get
we
people to
utilizing
actually
it?
go. You're right.
The training is good, and they come up with new trainings, and I don't think they serve us to quite the level of the CJC does, but I kind of agree that I don't feel bad about considering helping a little bit if we can, but
Well,
it would be nice to know the
if you spend any
participation
time
rate.
at the YCC, I mean, it's almost like the McDonald's. What's the Christmas box house? Ish. That, I mean, it's a extremely valuable resource for, you know, that level of issues.
So one thing is Miss Rose, the director, Margaret, has offered to come and make a presentation to the council if you would like to see that.
I'd be open to that because the services agreement, it's pretty thin on details.
Yeah.
There really isn't anything in there.
Okay.
Other than how much we
Give us
donate.
some money.
We kind of tried to get her here tonight, right, Michelle? But
Steve's got it.
yeah, Mr. Brooks.
I just want to say this, and I say it every time we have one of these come in. We need to be mindful that this is where it gets frustrating to me. Is it seems like every time one of these social programs comes up and they turn to the cities, it really bothers me that they do that, because I don't think, let's just say for example, so we give them $5,000. Well, what happens the year that we don't have anybody go through the YCC? So we use $5,000 of our residents' taxpaying money for a program that we didn't even use. and this is where my complaint has always been, and the pushback, on these senior programs and everything else is, these are more county programs. I mean, if whatever happens in Weaver County, the county commissioners should pay for that kind of stuff. They keep turning to the cities. It's almost like these unfunded mandates that they don't want to pay for it, and so they go to the cities and say, well, you guys pay for it because you guys use it. Well, I understand, and I'm not bad-mouthing any of these programs. I think they're all valuable, but I still don't think that it's a city's obligation to run social programs, and that's kind of what these are. They're not something that we generally should be doing as cities. I don't think. I think it's more of a county function. And I just think we should push back a little bit more, kind of like we did last time with the CJC thing. We did a little bit, and we all ended up, paying a portion or giving in to some degree. But I think we need to keep pounding that argument with the county is these kind of things are county programs. They're not city programs. And it's just frustrating to me that they keep doing this. They'll complain when the state sends them some unfunded mandates, but it's okay for them to do it to us. And so it's the same speech I've given on every one of these things over the years, and I just want us to be mindful of that as we go forward to do this. Again, not bad-mouthing the program, not saying anything about its importance or anything like that. It's just a matter of should we be the ones doing it.
And just as a reminder, if you're okay with me saying something here, the CJC, we gave ARPA money and like one-time money for a building, which in my mind is totally different than paying operational costs every year.
Councilor Arnold.
Two things with what Steve was talking about is, one, we have a city police force, so we do send them the people that we as a city send them. And one of the things, Steve, that you've said over the years is if it's a taxing entity, and then like the school district or something like that already taxes us, and then we take our tax money and supplement them, that's kind of been one of the precursors. And this is a private, it's not a county program. It's not they don't tax us. They operate on donations and, funding from private citizens and things like that. So
it might be interesting to see what the county does contribute from theirs, and see if we feel it's fair and proportional. Councilor Haas.
Has this been before WACOG?
Yes.
And what was the feeling of the various mayors about it?
They are generally more supportive than we are in Riverdale. Just generally, that's what I would say. They came to us a year or two ago, and we just let it kind of pass and didn't really act on it.
Supportive in person at your meeting, or supportive like they write a check?
Well, they're supportive in the meeting. I don't know if I could get them in a less formal. I was thinking I might actually discuss this with some people at this conference we're about to go to. In fact, I might even ask people from outside Weber County, do you have social programs coming to your cities and asking you to fund them? Because I agree, like the CGC was a one-time thing, but somewhere there's got to be a line. The county has so much resources, or so many resources, and such a broad tax base. I mean, they could raise whatever they're asking for, $100,000. I mean, the county can raise that so easily across their base. It's a fractional tax, where the county or the cities, it's a little harder. So I don't know. I'm going to do some little research this week.
The county commissioners are part of WACOG, right?
Yeah. Yep, they're there.
And some of the stuff is legislated through the state. So there's got to be some funding sources there, I'd imagine, for some of these social programs as well.
Where all their funding comes, but
yeah.
Do we know who is replacing Kevin Eastman?
No.
Weaver Human
Nope.
Services.
He's got a couple more months. We don't know.
June 1st.
Yeah, June-ish. Yeah. So okay, maybe not.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Great program, but it's one of those deals where.
Who could find out how much the county contributes? Steve or Cody? Like, how do we find that out?
Steve can call Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the cell phone number.
I think they went to all the individual entities. I can't remember if the county, I used to audit YCC, and I can't remember if the county contributes anything, to tell you the truth. Like, I think they go to each of the cities, because like I live in Far West, and I'm pretty sure Far West agreed a couple of years ago to write a check. But I don't think, and at some point, and I think YCC is a great nonprofit, but at some point, I think they've figured out it's easier to come to us than to fundraise.
Sure.
And it's just if
Yeah, the
we're
contracting for it annually is a little weird for us just to be like, it's a contract for us to pay 'em money, whichever.
and I
way
think
we set
one
that.
entity's tried this and so it's worked, and so then the other ones have all in the Ogden area have kind of jumped on board.
Okay, thank you. So do we want her to come present? Do we want to find some more information? What do you guys,
I'd rather have
more information
more
first?
information
Okay.
before she comes in, because then
Yeah, let's do that.
if we don't get the information and she presents and we say no, then it's
Yeah.
a little more.
Let's get you some more information. I agree. We're going to do a lot of research this weekend or this week, coming days. I'm going to try and get some straight answers from those other mayors.
We'll have a booth down there.
They can prove it.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, the county was very supportive of us contributing. So
We want receipts. Show us the receipts.
yeah, the county was very much on board with us contributing to that. Okay, last item, number 6, discussion regarding road projects. This was just kind of a last minute thing we threw on at WACOG. They said they'd move the date up a month so they'd have a little more time to work with these. I don't know if you guys have anything, but I wanted to give you one last shot.
I had those two that we talked about. Steve, we talked about the drive lane behind the Not Panera. If money could go towards that. I know we might not be far enough along in the planning process. The other one was how UDOT's trying to make us put in that island on Riverdale Road. If that could be a project that we don't want it, so if we can find a different way to pay for it, maybe that'd be better.
As far as I talked to Sean about these grants, that's why I was almost hoping he'd be here tonight. When we request these grants, I think one of the criteria is that it has to be a city-owned road.
Oh.
So that anything on Riverdale Road would not qualify. Anything on South Weaver Drive would not qualify. So as we went around the city last year, when we actually submitted one, just up on that little piece, kind of by the Larry H. Miller there, because that was about the only spot that we could come up with that we could widen it and put some sidewalks and make some improvements. The other one, I mean, that's the main criteria, is it's gotta be a city-owned road, whatever we do, whatever we submit for these grants.
Does curb and gutter and sidewalk fall into that?
Yes.
Do the trails?
I understand, because
The trails don't?
requested on that one last year with some curb and gutter and a little bit of widening as well.
Would behind the Kia dealership work at all to try and smooth over something with the Katrubases? Because I know there's a
Yeah.
road
It-
and
it
curb and
would,
gutter
but
issues back there.
That's already in the works a little bit. Brandon could give you a little bit more info on that one.
That's fine. I know we could do some schmoozing with them to try and
Yeah.
get that better, and that's been a bone of contention with everybody for years.
I think it's pretty much resolved, and that will come forth in a new site plan application here in the next week
Okay.
to the planning commission.
Can
and
it
then
be
to the
used
council.
for traffic studies?
I don't think so.
I would almost say no, but I'd have to double check on that, Andy. I'm not positive.
I'm just curious. I was thinking about sometimes we get people pushing for another roundabout on 4400. And so I don't know if it could go towards design or traffic studies or if we even want to consider that. But
What about our money with UDOT on the bridge on 4400? I mean, could it help with that? Those matching funds that UDOT's looking for, or it's supposed to help with congestion? Some of the funding.
It could in between the bridges, but the bridges themselves are owned by UDOT, so I don't know that we could do it there. But like in between, if we were widening or something like that, then we certainly could.
Okay.
Weren't we talking about possibly getting rid of some of the roundabouts and put lights in there?
As far as that America First project goes, their traffic engineers are saying we're going to take out 2 of those roundabouts as it stands right now, just because of traffic flows. The roundabouts won't be able to handle it. They have to go back to lights to be able to manage that.
And that might be a future project we can consider, the funding that out of their money, so.
The one that we do have that could be a possibility that Sean and I talked a little bit is up there, by the fire station, because that is a city road, and Sean felt that maybe we could look at doing curb and gutter and sidewalk on the west side, even though the property there, right there, the right of way is the state, Sean didn't think we'd get any opposition on that because technically we still own the road and we would have a certain amount there that would be our right of way. So that could be a possibility that we don't have any up there right now. But I don't know how much of a vital need that is. I mean, it'd be nice and it'd clean it up, certainly. But then it also would restrict some of your parking unless we could, like right by the park, let's say next summer when we have the farmers markets, that's the main parking area on that west side. And I don't know how much that would be affected. Again, it would just depend on how much we could go out into that with our right of way and make those improvements.
Councilor Hawes?
What about some of the roads that have fairly deep gutters? I know when I first moved to the house that I live in now, at the end of 4300 at Riverdale at 700, it was an open gutter, an open thing you had to go through, and it was a huge dip, and they did put in a pipe to fill that, so it's now nice and level. And there's still a few around that are like that. Would that be something that this could be used for?
Again, I think it's one of those ones that's more of a Sean question. I would almost guess no, but that doesn't mean we couldn't play a shell game on that and use some of our funds that we would normally use for that and kind of shift something around if there was another area that we could improve it and get a grant for a different area or something that we were going to improve.
Good questions. Okay. We'll just keep...
Again, these are all, they're good points that you make, and so if you'll send me some emails with some of your concerns and locations, it's certainly a starting point for us, and we'll look at it a little bit further.
Very good. I appreciate that, Steve. I don't know. I guess frustrates maybe is the right word to sit in Wacog and watch all the other cities get tons of road funds for their big projects. I know we could use those on some things, and so. But if we don't have, good projects right now, that's fine. We just want to always keep an eye out for opportunities. So, I think the one behind possibly Panera at the timing might be, that's going to help with congestion for sure, but it might not be the time right now. So.
Do we own it? Isn't that going to be a private road?
Yeah, that's true. All right, you're right. So we'll have to see. We'll always looking for stuff. So. All right. Any comments for this meeting from the City Council?
I just had one. We haven't talked about it, and I know we're getting into budget season, but before we talked about whether or not we should review truth and taxation more often as a council, whether we plan on moving forward with it or not, just to get the residents more comfortable with it and to hold the council more accountable to not missing on the opportunities that we need to take when it's smaller versus, 90% increases later. So I just wanted to bring that up in case there's still an interest in that, but.
Thank you.
I can say Cody and I have talked about this. South Ogden started this a few years ago where they bring it up every year. And so they discuss items. They don't always do it or follow through on it, but it's something that they just routinely do. And they're really happy with it in talking with their leadership over there. They like the process. But whether or not we want to do that, that'd be up to you guys. But I don't know how often they do it. I don't think it's that often, but they do at least have it on their agenda and plan on doing a truth and taxation every year, even if they're going to just leave it the same. They still go through the process, or at least initially they do.
And that's a decision we need to make pretty quick, right? If we're going to go through that process?
Yeah, we've got to decide by that second meeting in June with the budget adoption if we're going to go through truth and taxation.
It'd be less painful to do it every year, even if we say no, because once you bring it up and you're not doing it, it's painful.
Yeah. So we could talk about that more when we do the tentative budget adoption on May 7th, if you'd like. If you want to think about it, we could discuss it more there.
Okay. Yeah, let's definitely discuss it and see if they want to go that direction. Any other comments from the council? Let's see. Any comments from the city staff? Mr. Brooks? Oh.
I'll just go really fast. I won't mention the other two. We already covered those in the pre-meeting. I did want to let you know that Brandon has reached out and notified the county that we will be triggering the west bench. So it's time. It's come on us, and it's time to move. So just so you know, we've given our official notice to the county that that's going to happen this year in triggering that RDA. The last thing, and I'll mention this really fast, we had such a brutal year last year as far as lawsuits and stuff goes, but this year, as they all play out, we just got word, and I don't know, I've talked to a couple of you individually, but I don't think I've talked to the whole group, but the Purin lawsuit, actually, we filed some preliminary motions on that to try and narrow that argument down, and the judge came back with a complete dismissal on it. So that was a big surprise to us that even happened. So we were pretty thrilled with that. Didn't expect it. It does put the burden more back on them. Now they've got to go through an appellate process rather than we were hoping just to get the issues narrowed down to just one or two, but it ended up getting the whole thing dismissed. So pretty excited about that. We pretty much eliminated all of them except for the Katrubis matter, which is still ongoing, but it's also getting close for argument. So, and even on that one, we come out really well as the preliminary motion. So everything on the legal end is going quite well.
Okay. And that was going to be my last comment, was just, and so Mr. Brooks took care of that. So with that, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All right. We are adjourned.
Thank you all. I'll be seeing a bunch of you tomorrow and the next day.
Tomorrow, yeah.
See you then.
You guys all drive from St. George? Or? No? No goers? Yeah?
Yeah, a couple of us are going. Yeah.
Oh, drive safe.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
Fun too. Try.
I'm
give
going
a
to the
police
spaghetti
escort?
dinner.
You got what?
I'm going to the spaghetti dinner.
Woo!
Yeah.
It is delicious.
Jim asked if you guys needed a ticket. He texted me. He actually texted
I
me
wish
the
they would
Lions
post their Venmo. I think a bunch of people would send them money.
Yeah, I think it's Riverdale Lions 28.
Is it?
Yeah, but he texted me during the meeting just so you guys know, and they want to help with that bench. So,
Oh, good.
yeah, the Lions.
That was a terrible situation.
Holy moly, that's
Sad. That's sad.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Thanks again
Glad
for
they didn't ask us
recognition.
to
I
talk
appreciate
about
it.
Yeah, no doubt.
I wouldn't have made it.
I gotta get this guy.
Is that what they were talking about?
Yeah.
Who was she?
Thanks, you guys are gonna run tonight.
What's that?
Where was she at?
I think she was over, wasn't she by the school or by the church, I think, when she was on the